This episode is sponsored by Be Water Smart, bewatersmart.info. Drought and water conservation is a way of life in the West, but saving water should always be a good garden practice wherever you live. Be Water Smart is making it their goal to help gardeners, homeowners, and residents do their part with helpful tips, videos, and links. You will find tips on irrigation, such as when you should water, which type of drip or sprinklers are best, and even a very helpful video on how to convert standard sprinklers to drip. Plus, what I always preach about, mulching. Remember, no pixie dust. And you'll even find a video of me talking about it. And of course, you've heard me say over and over again, check your soil moisture before you water. Why waste water when not necessary? Be Water Smart has helpful tips so you know you are watering efficiently and correctly. This includes how to water trees and even save 30% more on lawn irrigation. Plus, they have a database of 1,800 low water use plants. Yes, 1,800 plants. Plus, garden tours and pictures to help you design and plant your water-wise landscaping. And since watering smart saves not only our precious resource, but helps you save money, they have links for rebates and services. So stay current on Be Water Smart news by signing up so you don't miss important info. That's bewatersmart.info.
Look at that plant. I want you to know that everything was grown in my garden. Don't touch that plant!
Is it poisonous?
She'll become part of the plant.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Flower Power Garden Hour. I'm your host, Marlene, and this is your January garden to-do list. It's January 2022, and wow, it's new year, same old me. And I'm just going to go through a list of what you should be doing. Remember, this is coming from zone 9 where I'm at. If you're in a completely different zone or even a slightly different zone, always double check because, of course, it depends on the zone you're at as far as these tasks and what to plant. So some of you may have feet of snow. Others may be 85 and sunny. And we're somewhere in the middle in zone 9 right now. We've had rain. We've had frost. No snow down in the valley, but man, it got pretty cold. Got a little close for a little dusting, but nope. All right, so I'm just going to go through first what you could plant vegetable-wise in zone 9. So it is sort of a low spot in what to plant as far as your vegetables go. Bok choy, broccoli rabe, loose leaf lettuce, radishes, mustards. Those are all what you could plant right now. Don't worry. Someone asked, well, you know what, I pulled my broccoli. Can I just plant that now? There'll be another uptick in a few months of being able to do a second round of some of these winter crops. So don't plant those yet because that can just sort of backfire on you. So right now you should be harvesting, of course, and those are the vegetables you could plant. The good news is if you really want to plant, right now it is bare root season, and that's bare root for fruit trees, grapes, blueberries, most different types of berries, asparagus, even artichokes, anything that where the soil is off of the root system. Nurseries are carrying them right now. It's a great time to plant. And why is bare root the way to go for fruit trees? Number one is selection. This is when nurseries have their biggest selection of fruit trees available. So it's not to say that it's the best time to plant per se, but it's just when they start bringing them in. So you have your best chance of getting the variety that you want. And yes, most nurseries, if they're a good, legit nursery, they're going to have the correct root systems because almost all fruit trees are grafted. They're going to have the correct ones, correct varieties, chill requirements. So of course, do some research, but ideally, if you go to a reputable nursery, you're going to be okay. They're going to carry what is good for your zone. Is bare root better than potted up? Not necessarily. When nurseries don't sell them all, they will pot them up. And once they're rooted, you could plant them again. Some people just swear by bare root. I personally am not a big bare root fan. I think if you have heavy clay soils, sometimes they don't take as well as potted up, actively growing plants. That's just my opinion, my experience. But the selection is great. So I'll try to do a segment just on bare root fruit trees. So I'm not going to go too deep into that. But other bare root things, like I mentioned, asparagus, good order. Find them in nurseries, even blueberries, grapes, and all that. All right. Oh, and of course, other planting things. Yes, if your ground is workable, i.e., not sopping wet, you could still plant certain perennials, California natives, your sweet peas, if you could find them, you could plant them. Speaking of seeds and planting, order your summer veggies right now. If it was anything like, last year, the year before, people are gardening, people are growing vegetables, and there's a shortage. So don't wait until, it's time to plant. Order ahead. And plus, it's really fun to, I think it's fun. I'm assuming you think it's fun to look at catalogs. And I know once you get order from one, you're on a mailing list, and this is a good mailing list to be on. Other companies will start sending you their catalog. So it's really the only mailing list that I like to be on, where I haven't signed up is you get different catalogs. So, Select Seeds, Johnny Seeds, Baker Creek Seeds, Seed Saver, Renee's. There's a whole bunch of different seed companies, and they all have different ones. And, some of them are only heirloom. Some of them are no GMOs. So, you could select from different ones because sometimes they're obviously not going to carry everything that you want. So it's just sort of fun. So shop. Go ahead and start shopping. All right, what to do in the garden. Now, you may be seeing things to, prune your fruit trees. It's a little early. So yes, your trees are dormant, but when I say we, people I work with, we like to prune towards the back end of the dormant season before things start leafing out. Just things when they're starting to be active growing sort of heal those wounds a little bit better. And really you could prune up until when you could, they're producing leaf. So no rush. But what you do want to do with your fruit trees right now, your peaches and nectarines, is spray them with liquid copper so they don't get peach leaf curl. Of course, that's the fungus that causes the red puckering leaves and leaf drop, and it can affect the fruit as well. Winter rains make it worse because it is spread by spores. So if we have a really wet spring, it could be worse. Once your tree has it, the spores are always going to be on the tree. That's why you want to spray, because you're trying to prevent the spread of those spores, which will then make it a worse outbreak. It doesn't kill the tree unless it has it really bad year after year and the tree keeps dropping its leaves and it keeps having to put new leaves on. It just weakens it. But it can affect your fruit set. So that's the reason why people want to spray. So liquid copper, ideally 3 times before the buds come out. But if you could get 1 spray in, that's great. Dormant oil, if you have pests such as mealybugs and aphids, and you're like, I'm really tired of dealing with them. A lot of them are overwintering in different stages of life, eggs or adults even. Doing a dormant oil, coating the plant can help to smother that stage of the insect. If you have a leaf spot or you've had really bad powdery mildew, you could also spray liquid copper. So say your grapes have really bad powdery mildew. Liquid copper is a generic fungicide that could help with that. So dormant oil, liquid copper, those are the 2 sprays you could be doing right now. Something you could start doing is pruning your roses. Same idea goes. You could start pruning those a little bit later when they're actively growing. But as long as you do it when there's a little bit of dry, those wounds they're much smaller than pruning large fruit tree branches. So they're going to heal. You could do it at an angle too. I did a whole 2-parter on roses. So if you go back, I forget which episodes, but it's talking about roses. But pruning roses you could start doing now. Is it necessary to prune your roses? No, it will revitalize them. If you want them smaller, it'll keep them smaller. And it prevents having to then prune a really overgrown rose. Remember, if you have roses that are really old-fashioned, only bloom once in the spring, don't prune those now, because then you're pruning off potential buds. So a lot of people, this isn't an issue because most people aren't growing these antique roses that just bloom once. So, we want more bang for our buck. So we're planting ones that are repeat bloomers or continuous blooming ones. But if you happen to have one that blooms only in spring, don't prune that now. That should be pruned right after it's done blooming, like all your once blooming shrubs, such as camellias. Camellias are starting to go into flower right now. So of course, don't prune those. Let's see what else we have going on. Of course, still clean up as old fruit, especially citrus. Citrus, you should be picking citrus right now, but some of it might be dropping. Don't leave any mummified fruit on the tree. That just harbors insects and potential disease and that spore, fungal spore. So if it's falling, pick it up. Speaking of citrus, in my question answer, I'm going to be addressing, can you prune? Don't prune your citrus right now because it is frost sensitive. New foliage can be very frost sensitive. So you want to use that old foliage as a blanket for the citrus. So hold off pruning those, but I'll talk about that in my question and answer. Add beneficial nematodes. I've been trying to get the nematode numbers increased. I'm doing a mix of beneficial nematodes. I'm ordering them from Arbico. And if you have a particular pest, it'll label which nematode strain to get. I'm trying to really bulk it up for cucumber beetles, which I had a problem with last year. So I'm adding it now, and they'll multiply in the soil. And hopefully it'll be at the stage that when I'll get all the stages of the cucumber beetle in the soil. So adding nematodes. Compost. Make sure your compost is in an area that's getting rain. If not, add some water if it's covered. Turn it. Doesn't want to be inundated, so you do sort of want to cover it as well. If it's slimy and wet and disgusting, add more brown versus green material to it to help dry out a bit. You could still add compost to your garden as a weed barrier. Also, it takes a while for some of those microorganisms and nutrients to work their way into the soil. So you want your soil to be prepped for spring planting. So if you start adding mulch and compost, mulch in the form of compost to your soil, now on top, it'll start working its way in. So it's not a bad idea to do that. Cut back your asparagus if you have it. It should be, it'll let you know, it should just be brown and, breezing in the wind. And really just control the winter pests, which of course are going to be your cabbage loopers. Chances are they're probably gone if you've had a cold drop. Those are, of course, the green worms and the little white butterflies, but add BT. Cabbage aphids, I know for me, sort of died off with our frost. So that's good news. But if they're there, just knock them off with a hose if possible. Soap spray, that's going to be your best bet. And really, those should be your worst pests for right now in the winter. So really, that is your to-do list. Of course, depends on your zone, depends on what you're gardening, and what you're doing. But for the most part, that's it. So there is actually a decent amount to do. Like I said, don't work wet soils. It's sometimes really difficult to get out in the garden if it's really raining and really cold. But obviously, we're prepping already for spring. Already, because for me, yay, hopefully spring. January is not a fun month. It's just dark and dreary and rainy. But my mind's already on planning the garden and keeping the winter garden going and doing all the garden chores. So if you have something that I forgot, if you have a question, remember to email me at marlenetheplantlady@gmail.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at marlenetheplantlady, and on YouTube, Everything Gardening. And until next time, happy gardening.